Hi, 10th grade friends. This is Cody back again. Now we finished the Lemonade Wars series the last time we did our chapter read aloud, so I bet you're wondering what chapter book am I going to read now? So, the one I've chosen is Stone Fox, and it is written by John Reynolds Gardner. So let me read on the back. It kind of gives you a little summary, a little taste of the book, but doesn't give away everything, obviously. So let me read to you what this book is about. It says a race against time. Little Willie's grandfather is sick, and it's up to Willie to save their farm from the tax collector. So they're going to take back the farm because he doesn't have money to pay for it. Their only hope is the prize money from the dog sled race. But a lot of other people want to win the race too, including Stone Fox, who has never lost a race in his life. Do Willie and his dog, Searchlight, stand a chance against the toughest racers around? Can they win the race to save the farm and grandfather before it's too late? So there's a little bit about the book. I hope you enjoy it. Chapter 1. One day grandfather wouldn't get out of bed. He just laid there and he stared at the ceiling and he looked very sad. At first little Willie thought that he was just playing. Little Willie lived with his grandfather on a small potato farm in Wyoming. It was hard work living on a potato farm, but it was also a lot of fun, especially when grandfather felt like playing. Like the time grandfather dressed up as a scarecrow out in the garden, it took little Willie an hour to catch on. Boy, did they laugh. Grandfather laughed so hard he cried. And when he cried, his beard filled up with tears. Grandfather always got up really early in the morning, so early that it was still dark outside. He would make a fire, and they would make breakfast, and they would call little Willie. Hurry up, or you'll be eating with the chickens, he would say, and then he would throw his head back and laugh. Once little Willie went back to sleep. When he woke up, he found his plate out in the chicken coop. It was picked clean. He never slept late again after that. Cause and effect. If you're late, you miss breakfast. That is, well, until this morning. For some reason, grandfather had forgotten to call him. That's when little Willie discovered that grandfather was still in bed. There could be only one explanation. Grandfather was playing. It was just another trick. Or was it? Get up, grandfather, little Willie said. I don't want to play any more. But grandfather didn't answer. Little Willie ran out of the house. A dog was sleeping on the front porch. Come on, Searchlight, little Willie cried out. The dog jumped to its feet and together they ran off down the road. Searchlight was a big black dog. She had a white spot on her forehead the size of a silver dollar. She was an old dog, actually born on the same day as little Willie, which was over 10 years ago. A mile down the road they came to a small log cabin surrounded by tall trees. Doc Smith was sitting in a rocking chair under one of the trees reading a book. Doc Smith, little Willie called out. He was out of breath. Come quick, please. What seems to be the matter, Willie? The doc said. Doc Smith had snow-white hair and wore a long black dress. Her coat was tan and her face was covered with wrinkles. Grandfather won't answer me, little Willie said. Probably just another trick, Doc Smith said. Nothing to worry about. But he's still in bed. Doc Smith turned a page and continued to read. How late did you two stay up last night? He went to bed early, real early, no singing or music or anything. Doc Smith stopped reading. Your grandfather went to bed without playing his harmonica? She asked. Little Willie nodded. Doc Smith shut her book and stood up. Hitch up Rex for me, Willie, she said. I'll get my bag. Rex was Doc Smith's horse. He was a handsome palomino. Little Willie hitched Rex to the wagon, and then they rode back to grandfather's farm. Searchlight ran on ahead, leading the way and barking. Searchlight enjoyed a good run. Grandfather was just the same. He hadn't moved. Searchlight put her big front paws up on the bed and rested her head on grandfather's chest. She licked his beard, which was full of tears. Doc Smith proceeded to examine Grandfather. She used just about everything in her little black bag. "What's that for?" little Willie asked. "What are you doing now?" "Must you ask so many questions?" Doc Smith said. "Grandfather says it's good to ask questions." Doc Smith pulled a long silver object from her doctor's bag. "What's that for?" little Willie asked. "Hush!" "Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry." When Doc Smith had finished her examination, she put everything back in her little bag. Then she walked over to the window and looked out at the field of potatoes. After a moment she asked, "How's the crop this year, Willie?" "Grandfather says it's the best ever." Doc Smith rubbed her wrinkled face. "What's wrong with him?" little Willie asked. "Do you owe anybody money?" she asked. "No," little Willie answered. "What's wrong? Why won't you tell me what's wrong?" "That's just it," she said. "There is nothing wrong with him." "You mean he's not sick?" "Medically, he's as healthy as an ox. Could live to be 100 if he wanted to." "I don't understand. I just don't understand," said little Willie. Doc Smith took a deep breath, and then she began. "It happens when a person gives up on life, for whatever reason. Starts up here in the mind first, and then it spreads to the body. It's a real sickness, all right, and there's no cure except in the person's own mind. I'm sorry, child, but it appears that your grandfather doesn't want to live anymore." Little Willie was silent for a long time before he spoke. "But what about fishing and rodeos and turkey dinners? Doesn't he want to do those things anymore?" Grandfather shut his eyes, and tears rolled down his cheeks and disappeared into his beard. "Oh, I'm sure he does," Doc Smith said, putting her arm around little Willie. "It must be something else." Little Willie stared at the floor. I'll find out what's wrong and make it better. You'll see. I'll make Grandfather want to live again." And Searchlight barked loudly. A 10-year-old boy cannot run a farm, but you can't tell a 10-year-old boy that, especially a boy named Little Willie. Grandfather grew potatoes, and that's exactly what Little Willie was going to do. The harvest was just weeks away, and Little Willie was sure that if the crop was a good one, Grandfather would get well. Hadn't Grandfather been overly concerned about the crop this year? Hadn't he insisted that every square inch of land be planted? Hadn't he gotten up in the middle of the night to check the irrigation? "Gonna be the best ever, Willie," he had said, and he had said it over and over again. Yes, after the harvest, everything would be all right. Little Willie was sure of it. But Doc Smith wasn't. "He's getting worse," she said 3 weeks later. "It's best to face these things, Willie. Your grandfather's going to die." "He'll get better. You'll see. Just wait till after the harvest." Doc Smith shook her head. "I think you should consider letting Mrs. Peacock in town take care of him, like she does those other sickly folks. He'll be in good hands until the end comes." Doc Smith stepped up into the wagon. "You can come live with me until we make plans." She looked at Searchlight. "I'm sure there's a farmer in these parts who needs a good work dog." Searchlight growled, causing Doc Smith's horse Rex to pull the wagon forward a few feet. "Believe me, Willie, it's better this way." Oh, kind of a sad beginning, isn't it? I wonder if little Willie's going to figure out what's wrong with Grandpa and why he's giving up. Can he do the crop by himself? He's 10 years old. What do you think will happen? We'll find out.